from all over the world. Cheers and salam alaikum. Welcome to my show. Today I'm speaking to you from Ontario in Canada, and I'm going to discuss with my friend in Albania, Mr. Gjergji Thanasi, about the latest development in a way here in North America, but mostly in Albania. So our discussion today, I'm borrowing a sentence from Mr. Rudy Giuliani, the personal lawyer of President Trump in the United States, who wrote on his Facebook, on his Twitter page, "Big Tech is censoring Rudy." And our program will be called "Big Tech is censoring Rudy Giuliani." The friend of Rudy Giuliani, Maryam Rajavi, and the Mojahedeens are censoring the Albanian media. What we're going to talk about in our show today, we're going to talk about the latest development in Albania. As many of you might know, Albania since 2013, but more exactly 2016, is hosting a large paramilitary ex-terrorist organization known as the Mujahedin al-Halq. This organization is in a way a kind of a Marxist Medievalist sect or cult headed by a woman called Maryam Rajavi. And this organization and these people who, according to the data of the Institute of Statistics in Albania, they are around 6,000 or 7,000. I forgot the exact number, but Gjergji is going to correct me later on. These people live in a closed paramilitary camp in Albania. These people live in a total lockdown, and from there they radicalize day and night themselves, dreaming to do jihad or war against a foreign government, and more exactly against the government of Iran. We deal with this organization a lot because we love them and they love us as well. They have insulted us in the past years and have given to us so many names, from agents of Iran, mercenaries, lawyers, vakile, they call it vakile mullah Iran, the lawyers of the mullahs of Iran, and so many other names. And we, as a good investigative journalists that are, we also love them very much, and we talk about them. Now, what is happening in the last week? The Mojahedeens, they are expanding their graveyards. Our friend Gjergji, who is in the front of us, he has investigated and have found out that many Mojahedeens, they are dying because of the infection of coronavirus or COVID-19. So the Mojahedeens are trying in a way to bury their dead. But the thing is that having, I think the number should be 7,000, having 7,000 foreign terrorist fighters to be placed in a village, like we have the village of Manza. I don't know how much is the, do you know what is the population of Manza, Gjergji?
The small town of Manza and several other villages, part of the administrative unit of Manza, part of Durres municipality, go up to 18,000 inhabitants. So, meaning small town plus several villages, 18,000 inhabitants.
So Manza itself, how many inhabitants does it have? 10,000, 8,000? Do you have any estimate?
No. Yeah, 8,000, yes. I believe the small town of Manza has got 8,000 inhabitants.
So friends, imagine you live in a small town of 8,000 people, and suddenly you have an army of 7,000 who come in the outskirts of your town. And these people, most of them are old. They suffer from different diseases. These people have to one day die. And imagine what kind of nightmare This is for the town of Manza, its inhabitants, the civil authorities, and others. So now what is happening in this very moment in Albania and in the paramilitary camp of the Mojahedeens is that they are having so many deaths. There are allegations. I think my friend Gjergji Thanasi believes that many of the dead are being buried inside the camp, but we do not know. We don't have any proof about it. But Gjergji has documented that many of the deaths of the Mojahedeens are being buried in other villages in Tirana and in the region of Durres. Now, what is happening is that 3 or 4 days ago, the Mojahedeens wanted to take a parcel of the graveyard of the town of Manza and to use it for their dead, because they're having so many. And this fact made the inhabitants of Manza nervous. They protested, they called the medias. We had many media TV stations and online portals, from DurresiLajm to Boulevardi Online to Ora TV to Fax News and others that Gjergji can correct me later on, who went to Manza and they filmed the protests of the citizens of this town who did not want to give their public land, public property, to this ex-terrorist organization to bury their dead. The inhabitants of Manza are saying that the Mojahedeens who die, let them be buried inside their paramilitary camp. We don't want to give them their land. And it makes logic. Imagine you live in a town of 8,000 people, and suddenly you have 7,000 foreign fighters who come. And these foreign fighters, they live in very close proximity, and they die en masse because most of them, they are old ex-terrorists. And now imagine what a nightmare will be for your city authorities to bury all these dead people. So we had to protest. The media went there. But for people who follow me on Twitter, surprise, surprise, the Mojahedeens started blackmailing or convincing Albanian medias to delete the news. They even gave a press release to Gazeta Shqiptaria and Gazeta Tema of a bad-known journalist called Mero Baze, and where the Mojahedeens were claiming that those inhabitants of Manza who were protesting against the Mojahedeens to take the graveyards of the Manziot people, they were pushed by elements of regime of Iran. Now, Gjergji is our man on the ground. He knows more about this thing, and we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the graves, the deaths, the coronavirus, and the censorship, because the buzzword now is censorship. Rudy Giuliani is screaming from New York, Trump and everybody is accusing the bloody Democrats, the big tech, why they're closing our social profiles. Well, we have the friends of Rudy Giuliani in Albania, who they do not close your social profile, but from our experience in Albania, if you have a TV station or a newspaper in Albania and you publish a news about this ex-terrorist organization, the next day you'll have some Mujahideen commanders who are going to knock in your door and they will say, we work for the CIA or the FBI. We work for Trump. So if you don't want to have any problem, you better delete the news about us. After this, they issue press releases. They say the agents of Iran, the mullahs are attacking us. And for those journalists who are stupid enough and who do not understand the ideology of the Mojahedeens, they say, oh my God, the mullahs are coming in town. Let us defend the Mojahedeens. Now, to deconstruct this thing, the line goes to Gjergji in Albania. Gjergji, go ahead.
It is very difficult to use exact terms to define Mojahedeens, what they are doing there. It is a very closed camp. According to the Institute of Statistics of the Republic of Albania, there are around 7,000 Iranians in Albania. Apart from less than a dozen Iranians working at the embassy, diplomats and staff, there are virtually no other Iranians in Albania, businessmen, clergy, artists, scholars, etc. Virtually zero, nil. So maybe there are several thousand of them. Maybe there are 2,000 to 3,000. Nobody knows, because some of them have defected, meaning have abandoned the cult. I call it a Rajavi cult. Some of them has got permission from the cult to leave the camp and to go to Tirana to live a quasi-normal life in a rented flat in Tirana. Some of them are sent uma illegally to Europe as stowaways on board Albanian fishing vessels and general cargo vessels, or using forged passports, EU members, EU countries' passports, of citizens of EU countries, and from Greece, especially before the lockdown, they try to reach other European countries, even out of EU, for example, to Sweden. To Switzerland as well. So we don't know the exact number, let alone other things. Out of my personal experience, it was very difficult to be sure that there are dead people because of COVID-19, coronavirus, in the camp, because there is an omerta. I'm using a Sicilian word, an Italian word, used by mafia. Mouths are shut. Nobody speaks about them. I asked officially in written form from the spokesperson of the Ministry of Health Ministry of Albania. No, there is no Iranian dead in the COVID hospital. Because there was. I asked again, because we are speaking of September, because there was another death. No Iranian dead. I was sure, because several doctors, nurses, and paramedic personnel told me, yes, an old woman, Iranian woman died, an old Iranian man died. So I was racking my brain, how can I prove that they are dead? The representative of my government tells me that there are no dead Iranians in the hospital. Then it came to me, well, if they are dead, meaning there are corpses, where are the corpses? So
you
I
became
found a way
undertaker
to avoid the omerta, the mouths shut of the representatives of Rama regime, Premier Rama's regime, spokespersons, and things alike. I went to a small graveyard in the village of Kashar in the outskirts of Tirana, the capital city of Albania, and I checked the graves there. There were old graves, meaning 1, 2, 3 years old graves of the Mojahedin, males and females, and I took snapshots of them. There was also a big plaque in marble, written in Iranian language, meaning in Persian, and there were fresh graves. Some 6 of them were very, very fresh, because the flowers and the leaves of the wreaths were not withered yet, meaning at best 2 or 3 days old graves. There were 3 others. They were fresh, but the flowers and the leaves of the wreaths were rather withered. So they were 1 week, 2 weeks old. I took photos of the graves, so I proved that from September to December, there were almost a dozen new graves. And I counted the old graves, including a grave in the graveyard of Manos, that small town near the camp of the Mojahedeens. And I calculated that the death rate of the Mojahedeens from September to December, at the height of the COVID-19 infections in Albania, was almost 10 times more than the death rate of the Mujahideens from 1916 to 1916, 1917, 1918, 1919, 4 years, when they came en masse to Albania from Iraq. So, of course, this increase in the number of deaths were because of COVID-19. Either they were killing their own kind in the camp, or what? The same old persons, the same medical problems, and now we have an increase, such a big increase in the number of deaths. So definitely they were related to COVID-19 pandemics, and nobody reported them. So I then I checked one by one the names of the dead. I took photos of them written in Farsi. I used Google Translate and I translated the Farsi names into, let us say, English, meaning in Latin characters. So I found the names, and then I searched in the internet for the names. I found photos, generally of the dead, generally in military uniform with some medals, with some things. So from the graves, I got to the names, and from the names, I got to the photos. And I published time and again photos of the dead and the dying, because after my investigation, there were several other deaths, and a source of mine in the camp, equipped with an Android phone, keeps me informed so that so and so died today, so and so died yesterday, because death is not anymore news in the camp. It is a routine. It is just eating breakfast or eating lunch in the camp. There are dead persons there at least once in 2 or 3 days. So death has become something routine there. I don't know whether it is a camp or it is a lazaretto, uh, uh, a hospital for infectious diseases, catching diseases. It, I feel really sorry, because even those ex-terrorists are human beings, and most of them has no blood on their hands. Some of them have their hands blood-stained up to the elbow, but most of them have no blood on their hands, and I'm really sorry of them. They are dying, dying, dying. Of course, there are nasty faces among the dead, persons who have committed torture, who have murdered people, etc., etc. But most of the dead are poor fellows who wasted their lives 30 years, even more than 30 years, following a sham ideal, a sham cause, daydreaming of regime change for 40 years or 30 years, and things like this. Then we have a new problem. Okay, I proved that there are dead persons. Where do they bury them? Some of them were buried in that small graveyard of the village of Kashar in the outskirts of Tirana, the capital city of Albania. After the publication of my article, I created a problem to Rajavi cult, because they are very occult, very closed, and they do not want to that anybody learns what happens in the camp. So they had to deal with the corpses, with the dead bodies. What to do? Where to bury them? They try to keep in the morgue in Durres and also in Tirana, but there is a limit, because Our hospitals have quite a limited capacity of their morgues. And of course, they could not keep dead bodies in the morgue indefinitely. Then they have to bury it. There is a big question mark here. What do they do? Because our authorities, Albanian authorities, say no word if you ask them what is happening with the bodies. They even continue to deny that there are dead Mojahedeens.
Okay, hold on a second, because this is something very important for our international viewers. Now, uh, according to the laws of our government, if you have a cow in your house and the cow will give birth, you have to tell to the government that I have a new cow, so that the government is going to tax you. The cow cannot disappear, of course. We're speaking legally about it. Now, uh, uh, Albanian authorities are claiming that there are no dead Mojahedeens. On the other hand, you have been proving in the past weeks and months that there are so many Mojahedeens who are dying. The question is why the Albanian government does not keep track of people who die or who are killed inside the Mek camp.
This question is very similar to a question asked 30 or 35 years ago to the Carabinieri in Sicily, or the Financial Guard, or Polizia di Stato, state police in Sicily. Why do you not keep track of the mafiosi? Why you do not keep track of what are they doing? Importing drugs, running drugs, infiltrating the construction industry of the island of Sicily, winning public biddings and things like this. So our government is just like the local police and carabinieri in Sicily, even worse than them. Our government pretends that these mujahedeens do not exist. Our government does not care. How can I say? Is afraid.
Does not dare.
Does not dare. Yes, that's
Correct.
better. Our government does not dare to investigate, or at least to ask questions. What happens there? Then how? No. Uh, Leave them be. Okay, leave them be, but they are in Albanian territory. Even the foreign diplomats who have got immunities and privileges under the Convention of Vienna of April 1961 are kept under tabs everywhere. Every serious country keeps foreign diplomats under tabs, respecting their privileges and immunities as diplomats. These people have got more privileges and immunities than foreign diplomats in Albania. And this is very strange.
So what you are saying is that Maryam Rajavi, those friends of Rudy Giuliani, the good terrorists that Albania is hosting,
ex-terrorists,
ex-terrorists. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, of course, yeah. Just for the sake of to be on the safe legal side, we have to put the prefix X always when we mention about them. But so what we're saying, this X, whatever they have the right to kill each other, to bury each other, and there is no registration in Albanian official documents about them. Am I right?
I am positive that no ministry, no state body or board of Albania knows how many Mojahedeens are there in the camp, how many are out of the camp, how many of them have left Albania illegally, going to different European countries, let alone the dead and the persons alive. They tried not just to turn a deaf ear, not just to connive at them, but really to shut their ears, to shut their mouths, to shut their eyes. They do not want trouble. When I say they, I mean from the lowest civil servant to the President of the Republic, to the Premier Rama, even to the figurehead of Albanian opposition, a person called Lulzim Pasha. Nobody. They do not want to deal with those people. If you ask about them, nobody answers.
Why?
They
What
can
is the
violate the law because there are strict laws in Albania. I'm speaking to the foreign guests. There are strict laws in Albania covering the burial. Even when somebody dies, you need a certificate from a doctor to certify that the person is really dead and he died because of natural causes. Otherwise, there is a criminal investigation. Nobody signs these certificates, no permission to bury them, and you need the permission from the local authorities for Albanian citizens. For these citizens, no permission. So
you mean
the
Maryam
Albanian law
Rajavi?
is optional to them. If they like the Albanian law, they obey it. They go by this or that law. If they do not like it, they simply uh, avoid obeying the Albanian law. So
So,
they can
Gjergji,
bury their dead without a permission.
so
As
let
an
me let
Albanian, I cannot bury a cousin of mine, a beloved person of my family, when he or she dies. They can. It is very strange.
so in few words, Gjergji, we have a paramilitary ex-terrorist organization in center or in Europe, in southeastern Europe, in Albania, where these people they behave by their own laws. They have created an extraterritorial uh, 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 uh,
Enclave. Enclave.
enclave in the heart of Europe, maybe probably less than 1,000 kilometers from Rome and the Vatican. And these people who are very close to the center of Europe, they can probably even kill themselves, they can bury themselves, they can do anything. And Albania, a NATO country, which is supposed to be a country that functions with laws, has no jurisdiction on these people. Am I right?
I don't know. I don't know whether we have jurisdiction or not. But our police does not care, does not see them, does not. Well, they do not exist for our police. They do not exist for our inner revenue office. They do not exist for our medical service. They do not exist for our municipality police. No, no. They
My
can
God,
violate any law.
Gjergji, this Mohammed bin Salman, when he killed Khashoggi, he has made such a big mistake to send Khashoggi to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He should have sent him to Manza paramilitary camp. Khashoggi would have been killed and nobody would have even asked about him.
No, not one Khashoggi, but dozens, a score of Khashoggis.
Can
Well,
see,
I'm smiling. It is terrible, but I have to smile. I have to smile.
so,
You
Gjergji,
cannot imagine. The only persons who raise their voice are the poor inhabitants of the small town of Manza and nearby villages. Why? Because they snatched a piece of land, a plot of land, uh, near the existing graveyard of Manza. We want this land to bury our dead. Oh, they and there are rumors they bought it. Okay, there is an owner who sells and somebody who buys. Who is the owner of this land? It is public property, it is private property. Okay, they bought it. How? Because there are very fast rules in Albania about buying using cash, buying real estate, in order
justify the source of
struggle
income.
against money laundering, terrorism, drugs, etc., etc. Okay, how did they buy it? In cash, through a bank. If you want to buy a plot of land or just real estate in general, you have to go to a public notary and there to sign and stamp a certificate that I sold it and you bought it. Then you have to register it to the local office of the registration of the real estate. Nothing, nothing. No public notary, no office of registration of real estate, nothing. Okay. Is it the jungle in Mato Grosso in Brazil? You can grab a plot of land in the jungle and you can do whatever because there are only some Indios there. Albanians are not Indios. And they protested. And I'm afraid after protest, we shall have clashes with the Mojahedeens because they applied the land grab there. No word from municipality. If I try to grab a piece of land as an Albanian citizen and as a citizen of Durres, the first will come the municipality police, the state police. They will draw a minute. They will sue me to the local judge, and I will face a sea of troubles. They grab the land, no police, no municipality police, no nothing. No, nothing. The Albanian state didn't exist. Only when the local folk raised their voice, tried to protest, something managed to be published on medias, written in print and also online, and things changed a little bit. For example, today the mayor of Durres, Madame Sacco, visited the administrative unit of Manas. Coincidence. She visited the damaged houses of the peasants there, damaged by the earthquake of November 26th, 2019. And she promised that there will be new investments here. We can try to finish as soon as possible your houses, so you cannot stay. You do not need to stay anymore in tents, etc., etc.
Gjergji, let me just interrupt you for a second, because I even know personally Emiliana Sacco. I even have complaints for her about supporting illegal activities and illegal constructions in the municipality of Durres. I have written to her, I have proof, and she didn't act. Now, in her Facebook posting, she wrote that I went to Manza to meet the inhabitants and to discuss their problems. Their problem, we know what it is. We had a protest 2 or 3 days ago by the inhabitants of Manza against their land grab by the Mojahedens. But before going to Emiliana Sacco, I want to go somewhere else. We had this news being published in a number of televisions, news portals. Now, me and you, we know for a fact what the government of Edi Rama does against journalists who write about MEC in Albania. We don't want to mention names, and you know why, but we know journalists who have received even calls from the office of Prime Minister, and they have been warned.
From the Dr. Goebbels of the Prime Minister, Mr. Fuga, the head of communications of the office of the Prime Minister of Albania.
Yes.
We in Albania call him the Dr. Goebbels of Premier Rama.
So he's the spin doctor, good friend of George and Alex Soros. So I didn't want to mention his name, but you mentioned. So Andrew Fuga
and Alex Soros have got a lot of things in common.
Are they in a relation somehow?
No. Of course, they have got sexual tastes in common, but no relation. No.
Okay, so coming back, we know we have journalists who have been called by Andrew Fuga and warned and told.
Not called, blacklisted.
Blackmailed, and they have told you will be
blackmailed and blacklisted.
Yes, and the journalists have been warned not to write about the Mojahedens, not to mention them if they want to continue as journalists in Albania. They have been denied their credentials only because they wrote about MEC. Now, the question is this. We know the campaign that MEC has done against the free media and independent media in Albania from their coming in the country. And especially since 2018, when they were faced with the big scandal of the case of Sumaya Mohammedi, whom they kept hostage and they did not allow her to go back to Canada and meet her Canadian parents. Now, the question is this that I want to make. I wrote already on my Twitter. We had a number of portals. We had Ora News, who published the protest of Manza. Later on, Ora News was blackmailed and the news was deleted.
No, it was something else, not this.
Let me finish. We had DurresiLajm, we had Suri Television, we had a number of TVs, online portals who published the news of the MAC, and this news was deleted. Now, I'm not in Albania. I didn't have the chance to talk with many of these journalists. Today, I spoke with Bledian Koka of Suri Net. Suri is a major TV of the opposition of Lulzim Basha, Democratic Party in Albania. And I called him, I told him what happened with the news. By the way, Bledian Koka, who came with me to Israel and Palestine, is himself from Manza, so he was in a way upset when I called him and told him, no, there is no way this happened. Later, when he went to his studio, he didn't respond to me anymore. So it means some force majeure went to his boss and told him, you have to delete this news. I have met the owner of one of these TV stations that I mentioned before, who deleted the news about MEC, the Albanian protest against MEC this time, who have himself told me that in 2018, he had MEC commanders going to his office, telling to him, we are the CIA, so if you don't want to have a problem with Americans, you better delete the interview that a lady gave about them. Now, this is a very hot issue, Gjergji, that I want you to elaborate, because we have the, how can I say, the good friend of Maryam Rajavi, Rudy Giuliani, who is protesting about the big tech censorship that is happening in the United States by Facebook, Zuckerberg, YouTube. We know what is going on. We know the story. Good enough. I mean, personally, I do not want anyone to be censored. But the good friend of Rudy Giuliani, who is yelling and screaming from the United States, Maryam Rajavi, the head of the Mojahedeens, is blackmailing the Albanian media, and we see a censorship, a blackout about a normal Albanian protest and the conflict that they're having with an ex-terrorist foreign fighter organization. So please explain to us what is going on with the media in Albania.
Now, this protest, it was a modest protest, to tell the truth, was a slap on the face of the cult leader, Maryam Rajavi. And there was a reaction on the part of the cult. First, they tried to muzzle the Albanian media. You mentioned those TV stations and portals online. They erased the news. How? I don't know. First, and I believe it was a pressure on the part of the cult, but I have no hard evidence. The fact remains that they erased the news, first. Second, they, Ora News is something special because Ora News is a privately owned TV station, but the Albanian state has appointed a manager to the channel. So the owner owns the TV station, but the manager manages, the state-appointed manager manages the TV station. So the Albanian state is directly in collusion with MEK, with an ex-terrorist organization, in order to censor, in order to muzzle the mouth of the media. This is proof. This is not imagination, maybe so circumstantial evidence. We have a representative of the state who manages the TV station, who ordered this piece of news to be erased. The interviews, the video, everything. And this is thing quite grave. MEK also produced their version of the event, and it was the same old story that people in the service of Iranian regime organized the protest. It was a small protest, and there was a very nice phrase that such a protest endangers the security of the camp. Who cares about the security of the camp, for God's sake? They grab a piece of land, a plot of land, they occupy it, and we Albanians should care about the security of their camp. What about the land of those town folks and villagers of Manza administrative unit? What about their land? They have lived there for at least 2 centuries, and they come and we have a land grab there. They simply steal the plot of land. We want to bury our dead here. There are laws in Albania. Albania is not the jungle of Mato Grosso. You can grab a plot of land there, you can deforest it, and you can do whatever. Even there are some laws, even in Mato Grosso. This is very insulting to the Albanians. This is the problem. The security of the camp is compromised. I don't care about the security of the camp. Don't steal Albanian land, and maybe we shall care about the security of your camp. We don't care about it. The Albanians have no, how can I say, no need to care about the security of your camp. I don't care what happened to your people. Your people are dying like flies in winter because of COVID-19, because of the pandemics. And you don't care about the well-being of your people. Why should I care about the security of your camp?
And by the way, responsible for the death of the Mojahedeens is Maryam Rajavi herself and the Mojahedin command, who keep their people inside their military...
Like cattle in a herd, like
of
cattle.
Course. I mean, these people, they do not respect social distancing. I mean, these people, they should be scattered throughout the country, assimilated, assimilate themselves in Albanian society and keep a safe social distancing. These people, they live close like being chickens in a chicken farm.
Yes, Albanian police fines you and me if we do not keep social distancing.
Correct.
The owners of bars, of restaurants, of dancing halls, etc., are fined if they do not keep social distancing.
Correct.
Nobody knows whether the social distancing is kept in that camp or not. According to emergency laws, present emergency laws in Albania, 10 persons cannot stay together because they violate the law. The police can fine you if there are 10 persons more. When somebody protests in the street, the police goes and fines them, saying you are more than 10 persons.
Yeah, breaking the anti-COVID regulations.
These laws as an excuse to break protests in Albania. Yet the Mojahedeens can violate these laws. Nobody representing the Albanian state goes to them and fines them, or at least draws their attention that, oh, you are violating Albanian law. And this is a typical colonial situation. We are the black man, and those Mujahideen are the white man. There is a law for the blacks and a law for the whites. They are the whites, unfortunately. And we Albanians are the blacks. We are the Kafirs, and they are the Afrikaans. This is the problem. I do not want to be a Kafir. The inhabitants of Manas do not want to be Kafirs. They do not want their land to be taken by the Mojahedeens. They need a graveyard. Okay, bury your dead in the camp. And by the way, I am afraid they have begun burying their dead in the camp without any permission, even without informing Albanian authorities. as if it is a cat or a dog. You have a pet at home, of course, you bury the dead cat or the dead dog in your garden. Even in this case, you have to inform a veterinary, because maybe it has got a catching disease and it can create problems to the public health. I'm afraid they have begun to bury their dead in the camp without even informing the Albanian authorities. I'm contacting a couple of companies because I want to have commercial satellite photos of the camp to see whether there are fresh graves there or not. If there are fresh graves, new problems.
Now that
Another
you now
piece of evidence that Albanian law is just like chewing gum for them. It is like this, like this, like this, like this. They can do whatever they want with the Albanian law. They can respect it, they can ignore it, whatever. It is very shameful for us Albanians to be treated in this way. We are treated as an occupied country by an occupying force. Even the Germans respect it more than those Mujahedin respect us. Even the Germans respected the French during the Second World War more than these Mujahedins respect us. The Vichy government had some rights, for God's sake. The Germans at least paid lip service to French law within the territory of the Republic of Vichy. It's very strange. They wanted the Jews, they informed French police, okay, bring us the Jews, we shall send them to a concentration camp. Like this. It's very strange. It's very strange the way they behave, the way they try to muzzle the mouth of the media. We try to set up a democracy in our country. 30 years ago, I took part in a demonstration. I led a demonstration in my hometown, Durres, against communism because, among other things, I wanted market economy, free speech, human rights, etc., etc. How is it possible that an ex-government, an ex-terrorist organization comes to my country and takes the Albanian law in their hands? How is it possible they can label everybody a stooge of Mullah's regime, a terrorist, a spy of Iran, a spy of Tehran's regime, etc., etc.? What are they? The representatives of God on earth? It is very disgraceful for us Albanians. Good or bad, we managed to kick away communism. And
unfortunately, Gjergji, let me just interrupt you.
I feel sorry of myself. After 30 years, I have to fight again for the free speech, for God's sake. It's humiliating.
Gjergji, 1 second. Unfortunately, there are lobby groups in the West, and that's why we're mentioning Rudy Giuliani in this video, and I very much hope that Rudy sees it, and probably we even invite Rudy for a debate. Rudy and John Bolton and whoever, all these apologists of Mojahedeens who claim that Maryam Rajavi is a lady who is going to liberate Iran, her 10 points on democracy. They use the hashtag Free Iran, freedom. They protest about Afkari and I don't know what they protest in Iran. These people are violating our rights in Albania, our freedom of speech, our freedom of media. They're persecuting journalists like me and you. The journalists that you and me, we know, but we don't dare to mention their names because they're afraid for their life. They are horrified by MEC. We have journalists who have been fired and removed from TV stations and newspapers in Albania only because they reported what MEC is doing. And the big thing that I want those people in the West, and that's why we're doing this video in English, because if we do it in Albanian, nobody will care in our quisling regime of Mojahedeens in Albania about our plight.
Interrupt you. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, these people, they are threatening our democracy, the right to tell to the world the truth. And the thing why I told you today to make this discussion together is that it is a very serious thing. And for people who do not believe me, let them go to my Twitter page. I put the links why MEC should delete the truth in Albania. I mean, we want to join the European Union, and European Union has so many standards that we have to fulfill. And one of them is freedom for the media, freedom for journalism. Where are the reporters without borders? Those people who, when I went to China and I condemned and I revealed to the world the concentration camps that China is doing against Uyghur Muslims, they came and they supported me. They even issued a press release on my behalf. Where are the reporters without borders now, when you have it open in Albania, journalists being threatened, blackmailed, news being deleted, under the yoke and the threat of the Mojahedin gang? Is this the world that we want to live in? We are complaining about the regime of Xi Jinping in China and do very well about it. We complain about the concentration camps of Uyghurs and we do very good about it. But look what is happening in the middle of Europe. This is my worry, Gjergji. You have 5 more minutes and then we'll conclude.
Okay. There is a very special point. They came to Albania as persons in need of protection. Yet they try to muzzle, to gag Albanian media, to violate the right of a free media. Imagine for a moment they seize power to Iran. There is that famous so that regime change. Imagine them ruling Iran. What will they do to Iranian media? They are nobody in Albania, and they managed to gag Albanian media. They managed to shut the mouth of the Albanian media, up to a certain extent. Imagine them ruling Iran. They are foreigners on our land. They have got only rights as protected persons, according to the Convention of Geneva. Yet they apply land grab. They snatch a piece of land. They violate Albanian law. Imagine them in power in Tehran. Imagine they making the law in Tehran. Of course, present-day Iran, I visited twice Iran, and present-day Iran is not a paradise on earth, no. But if they ever come to power in Tehran, Iran will become a piece of hell on this land.
And North Korea.
They are hellish. The way they behave in Albania, they are nobody and behave like this. We have got CIA, we have got Mossad, we have got America behind our back, and I've seen no scrap of paper from Mossad or CIA backing them. I need a scrap of paper, signed and stamped by CIA, by Mossad, by USA. They say, we are back, Americans know it, we've got Americans. Oh. They are just like the priests in Middle Ages. God is with us, Christ is with us. Okay, any proof that you represent Christ, that Christ is with you? And no, but you have to pay taxes, you have to buy indulgences from us because God is with us. And then came a certain Mr. Luther and questioned. And the Catholic clergy remained dumbfounded. The same thing with them. Imagine them ruling Iran. Imagine what will they do with the properties, with the real estate, with the money of the Iranians. Worse than an occupation, a foreign occupation.
Gjergji, in 4 days, we'll have President Joe Biden, who will be sworn in as the next American president. And I very much hope and pray that the new American administration will put its hand on the heart about us in Albania. Like Joe Biden, I hope will do also good things about Kosovo and will not do what Richard Grenell and Palmer and others wanted to do with Kosovo by turning it again into a Serbian province. So I very much hope that the new US administration will have a serious look at what MEC is doing in Albania and will do its best to force them to de-radicalize themselves, to stop their illegal activities. And those Americans who brought the democracy for us in the 1990s and 91 will also help us to preserve our democracy again. after Joe Biden takes office. Your final word, Gjergji, before I close?
I'm not that optimistic as you are, but
I'm
I
not. I said
trust.
I hope. I'm praying. I hope.
Yes, but I trust my people that Albanians will not endure forever the arrogance of these bunch of ex-terrorists. Maybe Albanians will teach them a lesson or two. The security of their camp is not paramount of importance. No paramount importance in the security. The liberties of the Albanians, the free speech is of paramount importance. The security of their camp is not paramount importance. It is a camp of ex-terrorists, and that's the end of it. I don't care about the security of their camp. The security of the Albanians, the dignity of the Albanians is of paramount importance to me. This is my word. Albanians will teach them a lesson or two. I'm sure about it. I know my Albanians. I know the people of Manza. They are very proud people. Of course, they are not rich. Some of them are real poor, but they are very proud people, and they love their land. And they will teach
And
a lesson or two. I'm sure about it.
and by the way, we have some friends who even work for MEC and who they tell us time after time what's going on inside the camp, even though Maryam Rajavi thinks that they have become her slaves.
Serfs more than
So,
slaves. She is a kind of feudal lady more than a slave owner.
Gjergji, I would like to thank you very much for this discussion on the censorship of media that MEC is doing in Albania, about the mass deaths among the Mojahedeens, and about the new developing conflict that is happening in the town of Manza between Albanians and the Mojahedin, ex-terrorist who Albania is hosting. I hope to see you again in future conversations. Thank you very much indeed. Dear
Thank
friends,
you.
dear friends, thank you for watching us, and see you in future discussions. Assalamu alaikum and cheers.